Hi, my name's Rob Ennis, CEO of Innerspace Productions, and today we'd like to welcome you to the Seabreacher Submersible Watercraft. We have a whole range of vessels out here today. All of them are modeled on aquatic creatures. Probably our most popular and one of my favorite models to drive is the X model. It resembles a shark, one of the easiest boats to drive in my opinion. Great for diving, do some really extreme tricks. Next up here we have our new Z model. We created this about 6 months ago. What this brings to the table is the ability to do high-speed 360-degree barrel rolls. The way it does that is we have an electrically operated retractable snorkel that will fold into the engine bay, which reduces the drag, allows you to jump. Again, modeled after a dolphin, very popular design. Next we have one of my personal favorites is the Killer Whale, real iconic looking vessel. Again, this is a Z model. This one's slightly different in the appearance, but the performance is very similar. Able to do 360-degree barrel rolls, unlike the X model. But perhaps what I think is our best vessel that we've ever built is the Seabreacher Sailfish. All custom built, carbon fiber sail. We've got a water cannon out the front so you can shoot people. We've got all sorts of features to resemble the Sailfish design. Again, it does have the Z model retractable snorkel. You remove that. So what we're going to do is we're going to get these boats out on the water and show you what they can do. We're going to teach you a little bit about safety, operations, some do's and don'ts, and really show you what these vehicles can do. One of the first features that we really try and get new operators familiar with is the canopy opening and closing mechanism. You want to practice opening and closing and latching the boat before you get out on the water, because it's one of the most important features of the boat, being familiar with it. Now, we have these external door handles. These are the latches. There's one on each side, but they're different from a regular door handle. Unlike a regular handle where you'll actually push up to open, these you actually push down to open and up to latch. So right now, the latches are in the open position. You want to go around to the other side, make sure those are open, and you can actually see on the inside that both latches are in their up position. Now, the canopy lifts up and actually rolls up the snorkel. So you're going to lift it and guide it up. It's on pneumatic, so it's not too heavy, and then it stops in its locked position. Okay, so here's the inside latches where you can see, again, one on each side. This is the open position, so in order to open the canopy, these need to be lifted, and it's same when you close it. You want to make sure these are in the up position. Then when you close the canopy down, you'll latch this side, latch this side. You can latch them from the inside or the outside of the boat. They are tight, and they're deliberately tight because we want to make sure it's nice and safely secured when you're inside. So when you climb into the boat on the trailer, obviously it's going to be very stable. You can stand on the sides, you can step straight to the center of the seat. However, when you're out in the water, you have to remember the Seabreacher is pretty narrow. It's stable, but you still want to step to the center of the seat. If you stand on the outward edge, the boat is going to roll significantly. Not typically enough for water to come over the side, but it's just generally a good habit to stand right in the middle of the seat. If you have a passenger, we normally put them in first. You're going to fold the seat forward. Then the passenger gets in, and then you're going to fold the seat back, climb right in. Straight to the center of the seat, move your seatbelts out of the way, and then just slide on in. When you get better, you can drive with the canopy in the open position, but when we're first training, we always make new operators run with the canopy closed. That way, if they don't get their roll control quite right, they're not going to bring water into the boat. So now that I'm inside the cockpit, I'm going to go over again how to open and close the canopy. Before you close it, you want to make sure both of the latches are in their up position, otherwise you won't be able to latch it. Now, what you don't want to do is pull down on the canopy. What you actually have to do is lift it up and over center. So you're actually going to lift up, pull it down. You don't need to slam it, just bring it down like this. So after you learn how to open and close and latch the canopy, you want to learn about the pneumatics. And what the pneumatics are is it's an inflatable seal that runs around your cockpit hatch and also around the engine bay. And what the pneumatic seals do is they keep the Seabreacher 100% watertight. They keep the water out. Now, it's not the latching part, it's the part that actually keeps it dry. So your pneumatic seals for the cockpit and the engine bay are controlled on your left-hand control stick. Again, you got to remember the ignition needs to be pulled out. If the ignition isn't on, your pneumatics won't work. Once you pull your ignition out, the left-hand button is inflate. You have to press and hold them, and you have a pneumatic gauge down here between your legs, and you're going to take it up to about 15 psi. This will take approximately 5 seconds to get it up to pneumatic pressure. It doesn't have to be exactly 15 psi, but that's approximately what we do. You don't want to put over 20 in it. Between 10 and 15 is about ideal. You only want to inflate your pneumatics to full pressure when your canopy is closed and latched, and when your engine bay is latched. These pneumatics are designed to force themselves up against the canopy frame. That's what keeps it watertight. Now, you will not be able to close the canopy with the pneumatics inflated. So one of the things you have to get familiar with is before you close the canopy, you want to make sure 100% of the air is come out of your pneumatic system. The right hand button is release. Now when you get into the vehicle, you want to make sure you set it up right for your height and size. We do have an adjustable seat, so you just pull the seat rail out like this, grab it, and you can slide yourself forward and backwards. Just make sure you lock it into the correct position that's right for you. Now if you're a much shorter rider or driver, we can actually move the pedals back 2 inches, but you have to get in there with bolts to do that. So it is ultimately customizable. Again, what we have is foot straps, and those you can adjust too. I like, when I'm driving them, to have them quite tight. They're just like snowboard bindings. You ratchet them down and release them. So now we're inside the cockpit. I'm going to go over some of the controls and the key to start it. You start out with a key. It's very similar to a Sea-Doo key, and this is your lanyard post. Now when you click that on and you press the red button, it's going to light up your instrumentation. Now this electrical system is purely for the engine related controls. You have another ignition here. When you pull that out, that's for all of your accessories. So it's important to know that there's 2 different electrical systems. This one is for your accessories, this one is for your engine. Then we're just going to touch briefly on some of your accessories and switches here. Again, none of the accessories will work unless your primary ignition is out. The green light will light up, and in this case the depth sounder lights up. You have a cockpit fan, which gives you a little bit of cool air towards the driver. You have bilge pumps for the cockpit and the engine bay. It's always good to test those before you go out on the water. On the right hand side you have your stereo, your accessories, some of the more entertainment. So this is more your entertainment side, and these are your safety side and your fan. Once you put the key in, the red button is your start button and stop button. You don't want to start it until you decide whether you're in forward or reverse. So the moment you start it, because it's a jet drive, the boat's going to start to move forward if you're in forward, or backwards if you're in reverse. So before you start, you want to make sure that you've got a good clear path ahead and you're going in the right direction. Once you start the boat, it's going to start to move forward. That's when you want to start your basic handling and understanding of the controls. Unlike a jet ski where you have a handlebar that turns left and right, we're actually going to turn using our foot pedals, similar to an aeroplane. If I push the left pedal, the boat's going to move to the left. If I push the right pedal, the boat's going to move to the right. But because it's a jet drive, you really need thrust in order to turn. It doesn't have a rudder, it's moving the jet thrust. So the way to turn the Sea Breacher efficiently is to use throttle. The throttle on the Sea Breacher is on your right hand control stick. Basically, if you give it throttle, it's going to start to move forward. When you turn, you want to apply some throttle. That's how it will turn. If you don't apply any throttle, the Sea Breacher is not going to turn, just like a jet ski or jet boat. Your turning, or what they call an aircraft yaw, left and right, is done with your pedals. That will turn the boat left, turn the boat right. Your roll control, like the ailerons on an aeroplane, are done with your hand controls. This right hand control stick controls the right wing, the left hand control stick controls the left wing. If I push this one forward and this one back, the boat will roll to the right. If I push this one forward and this one back, the boat will roll to the left. One of the things that takes the longest for new operators is balancing the right amount of turn and roll control, and that just comes with experience. So we're going to go over that in more detail out on the water. The other feature that the Sea Breacher has that most watercraft don't have, but is similar to an airplane, is pitch, and that's bringing the nose up and bringing the nose down. Now, on a aeroplane, that's typically done with a central yoke, and that's the hardest thing for new operators to understand, is that in the Sea Breacher, pitch is done with your feet, not your hand controls. So in order to bring the nose down, you're going to push your toes forward. In order to bring the nose up, you're going to bring the toes back. And that takes a bit of practice and getting used to. Now, like I say, unlike an aeroplane where you don't have a yoke, these do not control your pitch. So when you push these forward, it won't push the nose down. This is for two things: roll control when I do them opposite, and also for negative dive planes. When I push these all the way forward, you're actually pushing the wings down, the primary wings, which is going to suck the center of the boat underwater. The trim has to be done with the tail, which you control with your feet. Now, we offer a custom-built trailer for the Sea Breacher. It's basically a standard trailer, very similar to any other boat. However, it is reproportioned slightly for the Sea Breacher design. Now, when you're launching the boat, you're going to have to disconnect the safety bar, which holds the front of the boat in place, the winch, which we normally leave off, and then we normally keep a safety strap on the back. Before we put it in the water, you always want to make sure all 4 drain plugs are in place. There's 2 in the keel and 2 on the transom. So you have 2 drain plugs in the keel. The front one is for the cockpit and the rear one is for the engine bay. So launching the boat is a really critical thing, especially when you've never done it before. It's good to have plenty of help here to help guide you in and guide you out. The Sea Breacher doesn't have any rub rails on it, so it's a little bit more fragile than a regular boat in terms of scratches. Now, depending on the angle of the ramp that you're going to be launching from will determine how deep you need to take the trailer. Back it right up to the water's edge, and then you're going to disconnect the safety bar and winch on the front. When we launch the Sea Breacher, I like to take the trailer as deep as you can get it without taking the tow vehicle into the water. That way it actually floats off the back. You put it into reverse, make sure the engine's pre-started before you go. Don't start the engine until you're at the water, but you want to make sure that you're ready to go when you are actually floating off the back. Okay, so we're out here in the middle of a lake. Conditions are pretty flat today, about what they would be on a regular ocean day. It's a little bit choppy. If you have to tow it out for the first time until you get comfortable with it, that's a good idea. We've got a Zodiac, like an inflatable rib here today. By far the best support vehicle you can have, because you can bump up against the side without damaging the paint. We showed you how to get in the boat on the trailer. Now we're going to show you how to get in and out of the boat when you're out on the water. You know, it's bumping up and down a bit. So when I get out of the boat, obviously I've opened the latches, opened the hatch. I'm going to climb right to the center of the seat, get my balance. The boat's pretty stable, you know, it's not going to rock. I don't want to stand on this outward edge because that's going to tip the boat to the side and the wing's going to hit the bottom of the boat. So I go straight from the center of the seat onto the boat. It's great to have someone helping you to support you when you get in and out the first time. And that's it. You want to have someone support the boat, hold it up against the rib is ideal. You're going to step straight from the boat into the center of the seat, supporting here, right to the middle, and then get your balance, grab onto the sides, scoot yourself in, just like that. To secure the belt, take the loop on the left-hand side, feed it through the 2 eyelets of the shoulder straps, and then hook it with the strap on the right-hand side. Make sure the hook is securely down and fasten it. Adjust the straps accordingly. To release the strap, just pull up on the red tab. Before we start the engine, and again the key has to be in place, so you're going to put the key in, but before you press start you want to make sure, are we going to be going forward, in which case the selector will be in the forward position, or are we going to be going backwards? in which case it's in the reverse position. So I'm going to be going forward straight away. So I'm going to put it in forward, check around me, and then I'm going to push the start button. The moment the start button is engaged, I'm going to start creeping forward, so I want to be ready to steer and do my roll control. For beginners, we always recommend your canopy is closed and latched, but just for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to talk about each one of the controls individually. So I'm going to put the key in, press the start button. It's just going to start moving along, and the first thing we want you to get familiar with, turning left, turning right. Don't do anything with the main sticks, just relax, keep them where they want to do. They're self-centering, and don't fight them. The boat will naturally start to go forward, then you're going to go left, right. Don't even engage any throttle in the beginning until you get familiar with that. Then once you get familiar with the left and right, we actually want you to get the boat up on the plane. The speed that most people want to learn to drive is actually the most difficult speed to operate, because it's a boat, it's either on the plane or it's off the plane. When you're idle, the boat's off the plane, so you're just going to be cruising around. To get it on the plane, you need to give it quite a lot of throttle, a lot more than you would imagine. You're going to get it up onto the plane so that the whole boat lifts up onto its surface, and then keep it at about 15 to 20 miles an hour. That's the best speed to learn to drive at. If you drop much below 15 miles an hour, it's going to drop off the plane and go back up on and back off. So get it up to 20 miles an hour. You need a lot of power to get it up on the plane, but once you're up on the plane, you can ease off on the throttle. One of the reasons you want to get the boat up on the plane and stay on the plane is your wings that stick out each side are actually control surfaces, and they will stall at different times. So if you're constantly getting on and off the plane, one wing will stall before the other one. So the boat may roll to the left, it may roll to the right, and you'll spend a lot of time fighting your controls. And I see new pilots get into this oscillation where they can't get their roll under control. So it's much easier to get the boat up on the plane, relax, let the boat self-track, and don't fight it. One of the issues that we run into is pilots are trying to control their roll, and they'll actually make a very small situation worse. With the canopy in the closed position and your seals inflated, as long as you don't hit anything, there's really nothing you can do wrong. So don't get intimidated by not having your full roll control figured out. Every pilot kind of has to go through that period. Play around with them. Roll to the left, roll to the right, roll to the left, roll to the right, so that you really get comfortable with the idea that the boat will bank 90 degrees and it'll just come right back. Now, what I tell people when I'm training them, and typically I'll be training them from the back seat, is if the boat starts rolling to the left-hand side and you don't want it to, just pull that side up. If the boat starts rolling to the right-hand side, pull this lever back and it'll pull that up. You don't want to get into an oscillation back and forth, but that's the system if you start rolling too much. One of the features that the Rotax engine has, it's a safety feature, is sport mode. The boat will never start in sport mode. For 90% of the things that we're going to be doing, it's far easier to have access to the full power. So the moment you start the engine, you're going to press and hold the sport button, which is located on the main instrumentation. Press it for about 3 seconds. It will say about to engage sport mode. You'll press it one more time to confirm that. A green light will come on, and then you're on sport mode. It will only do that after you've pressed the start button. You can get up on the plane a lot quicker if you put it in sport mode. If you're not comfortable with that, there's nothing wrong with keeping it in the standard mode, but to get the optimum performance out of it, you're far better to be in sport mode. Now, just before we close it down and fire it up and get underway, I want to remind you of the 3 main controls that you have to think about in the same way that a pilot has to think about it in an airplane, which is pitch, roll, and yaw. Yaw is the steering. So when you're up and underway, you can't just think in a 2-dimensional environment like a boat. A boat, when you turn the handlebars left or the steering wheel left, you're going to turn left and roll a little bit left. When you turn the steering wheel to the right, you're going to turn and roll a little bit to the right. The Sea Breacher breaks the roll and the steering into separate controls, and you are actually determining how much the boat rolls relative to how much it turns. Initially, when you're first learning, the best thing is just to keep the boat totally flat or as close to flat as you can. Maybe lean in a little bit to the turn, but new pilots will sometimes confuse their roll with their turning. They will roll the boat thinking that the boat's going to turn, but it really won't. So keep the boat flat, use your steering, Use the throttle aggressively because you need a lot of throttle to steer. Okay, here we go. We're going to put it in reverse. We're going to close the canopy down, inflate the seals, and we're going to go over these in more detail. So first thing we're going to do is close the canopy. Make sure your latches are both up. Pull the canopy down, latch both sides. Then, the moment you latch a canopy, you always want to get in the habit of inflating the seals. We're going to pull out the main ignition and inflate the seals 15 psi. We're now safe inside the cockpit. Going to take the key, put it on the post, and then we're ready to start. Make sure it's in forward before we start, because we're going to take off, go forward. We're going to look in our forward visibility, making sure there's nothing in the way. I'm going to press the start button. The boat's going to slowly start moving forward, not at a drastic rate, about 3 or 4 miles an hour. I'm going to put it into sport mode, press and hold for 3 seconds, one more time, and the green light's on, and then we're in sport mode. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is just start cruising around. We're going to keep pretty light hands on these sticks, not do anything too drastic with them. We're basically just going to use our left and right. Give it a little bit of power. Turn left, left pedal. Turn right, right pedal. Left pedal, right pedal. Just get used to that. Now at this speed, about 10 miles an hour, we're not up on the plane. Use a lot of power to get up on the plane, but once you're up on the plane, you can ease the power up. So now I want to get the boat all the way up on the plane so it's cruising about 15-20 miles an hour, and then ease off the power, and then you'll use a lot less power and it'll be a lot smoother. So we're going to power up. Get up to about 20 miles an hour. The other thing we're going to talk about is our trim control, or our pitch, which we do with our pointing the toes and bringing them back. That can be confusing because you're also moving your pedals left and right, but initially, to get the nose up, when you're first taking off, you'll bring your toes back a little bit. That'll bring the nose high, just like that. But once you're up on the plane, just like on a boat, you want to bring the nose back down again. And the more you push the nose down, the flatter it'll be and the less it will skip. So once you get up on the plane, push that nose down and it'll accelerate a lot faster. Toes forward. Every so often you want to run your bilge pumps and your cabin fan, clear out any water. I just happen to have them off to keep it a little bit quieter inside the cockpit. So you want to spend about an hour or so just getting used to surface control, making sure that you have full control inside the cockpit. Practice going in reverse. Remember, the rear visibility is not fantastic, so make sure when you're going backwards that you know it's clear behind you. In reverse, the steering is going to be round the wrong way, so left and right are going to be reversed, just like in a plane or in a car. The other thing in reverse, it's hard to maintain your roll control. That's not so important when you're going with the canopy closed, but if the canopy's open, you can get confused and get water in over the side. So what I generally do when I'm going backwards, you want to have your main control sticks forward, and then that way the boat won't list. So when you're going backwards, this is the position that you keep your hands in. And again, look out over your shoulder, make sure you can see where you're going. The other thing that's good to get used to is just spinning the boat in the spot. Left pedal, forward, right pedal, backwards. You'll use a little bit more power going backwards than forwards. Left pedal forwards, right pedal backwards. And this is a really important skill for when you're navigating around boats and docks so that you don't damage your boat. You want to get used to be able to driving the boat slowly. Anybody can drive the boat fast, but to drive the boat with control slowly around obstacles takes a bit of practice and skill. Okay, so after you've done about an hour of surface control, learning a little bit about forwards, backwards, reverse steering, we're going to learn some dive control. We're going to do some initial dives. Now, as we mentioned, these control sticks are not your pitch. They don't make the nose go up and down. When you're in a dive, the only thing they're going to do is make your main wings into dive planes. Your pitch is going to be done with your feet. Toes forward, nose under, toes back, nose up. Now, that's the common thing that most people struggle with, is because when they go into a dive, they push them down to go down, and they naturally want to pull back on these control sticks when they come up from a jump. And that's the worst thing you can do, and it's like cutting the wings off an aeroplane. So in a dive, at least when you're beginning, you want to keep these all the way forward and only do it with your toes. So when we go into a dive, first thing we're going to double check both of our latches are closed, the seals are pumped up to 15 psi. You're going to check around you, make sure there's no one in your way, and you're going to go into a dive. You need a lot of power, so make sure you're in sport mode. And this is the procedure. All in at the same time, you're going to throw your toes forward by pitching the nose, give it a lot of power, push your main wings all the way forward, do not pull them back, lock your arms in, and all you're going to do is switch from toes to heel, and it will come up. Okay, so here we go. Go into it at about 5 miles an hour, then off the plane, and then throw it down like this. And just like that. So you noticed I didn't pull my arms back. I went from toes straight to heel, kept the power on. If you get off the power or pull your arms back, you're not going to be able to recover the dive, and you'll end up popping up backwards. So you just need to build this into your muscle memory, do it over and over and over again. Toes in, toes back, toes in, toes back. Okay? So I like to go in with about 5 miles an hour, 7 miles an hour. Make sure that it's clear ahead of you. Seals are in, toes in, 1, 2, 3, toes in. And it comes up. I didn't move my arms and I didn't get off the throttle. Same thing again, check and see if it's clear. Toes in. And it takes about 2 or 3 seconds for it to pivot around the main wings. You don't want to freak out, get off the throttle or pull the wings back, or you'll pop up backwards. This is what's going to happen if you do that. Suddenly you're going to absolutely nose down, and any water in the bilge is going to rush forward and freak you out. So remember, don't pull back, keep your toes forward. I'm going to run my bilge pumps, pump any water out, and then we're good to go. And you want to just practice little dives over and over again. Don't worry about diving too deep or diving too long. Just get that practice. Nose in, trim out, nose up. Here we go. Just like that. Same again. Make sure it's clear. Just like that. Okay, so once you master that, you can start doing longer dives. So in order to do longer dives, you're going to control your trim with your feet again. Nothing to do with these. These are going to stay forward the whole time, and you're just going to trim it out using your toes. So you're going to toe down, come about halfway back, find the sweet spot, and then when you're ready to come up, bring it all the way back. Just like this. Same thing. On that jump, I actually did pull my arms back. Once you get better, you can actually accelerate out of a jump and get a steeper jump by pulling back at the very last minute. When you're first learning, we don't recommend you do that, so start out by just holding them forward, but once you get better, you can actually get 90-degree jumps or even backflips by pulling these back at the last minute. And when you are doing dive training, it's a good idea to take a break every so often, release the seals, let any fog or condensation clear out, take a break, and practice. Another trick you can learn in the Sea Breacher is porpoising or a bunny hop. Now what that is instead of coming out 90 degrees, just as you breach the surface, you throw your toes forward again, and that will level the boat out. It'll either bunny hop like a bicycle, or if you do it enough, you can actually porpoise right back into a dive. Now it takes a bit of practice, it's not something you're going to master straight away, but But once you get your dive control down, just before you breach the surface of the water, you're going to throw your toes all the way forward and it will actually go into another dive. Okay, so again, make sure it's clear, regular dive procedure, pick up some speed. And that's porpoising. Again, it's just toes to heel, and it's just about finding that sweet spot of timing. And then another thing you might want to try with your dives is actually turning while you're underwater. Now it's going to be the same procedure, so you're going to be maintaining your trim control using your pedals, but at the same time you're actually going to initiate a turn but still control your trim. So I'm going to go into a dive, I'm going to maintain my trim control, but I'm going to initiate a right hand turn. So make sure it's clear, look over your shoulder to make sure no one's behind you, and go in. Turn, right pedal, still diving, right pedal, right pedal. And that was a complete 360. Sometimes you have to maintain your roll control as well in a dive. And you can actually weave back and forth. So this time I'm going to go into the dive, right pedal, left pedal, right pedal. Oh, and I went too deep. If you go too deep, you'll feel the suction on the engine. Just let it pop up backwards. The primary difference between the Z model and the X model is the retractable snorkel. It's actuated on your right hand control stick. You got to pull out the ignition. When I push the down button, you'll see the snorkel is actually going to fold down. So now I'm going to raise the snorkel and I'm going to push the up button. Takes about 5 to 10 seconds to fully get to the full up position. Okay, and there's really only one reason that we have a retractable snorkel, and that's to perform 360-degree barrel rolls. On a regular X model, the main snorkel that feeds air to the engine will actually prevent the boat from rolling all the way over. If you kick it to the side, that main snorkel will hit the water and kick you right back up again. So it's very, very difficult to perform a roll in an X model. We generally recommend people don't try it because they can damage their snorkel. In the Z model, when you're diving or operating under normal conditions, you're going to have the snorkel in the full up position. The only time you're going to lower it is when you do a barrel roll. When you do lower it, the air intake lowers down into a pocket just above the engine hatch, which means your air intake is a lot closer to the water. It's more susceptible to taking into water. So like I say, 90% of the time, snorkels are going to be in the up position. One unique advantage of the Z model is when you're putting passengers in the back, it's actually easier to get in because you can lower the snorkel, which will actually lower the canopy frame as well. Makes it kind of nice for getting in and out of the back. So that's a pretty neat feature of it too. 360-degree barrel rolls are by far one of the most unique tricks that any watercraft can do. It's something that really sets the Sea Breacher aside from anything out on the water. But it is a potentially dangerous move, and there's a lot of safety considerations that you have to factor in before you even try it. We normally recommend that anyone with the Sea Breacher Z model is already familiar with operating. They've come and done training with an authorized dealer, so they understand all these things and can really do it. We also have a little cheat sheet or a reminder sheet that we keep in the pocket in the back seat. So if you haven't taken your Sea Breach out for a while, or you just want to remember all the things to do, there's a specific section just in the Z model that will remind you things like how to latch the canopies, pneumatics, snorkel up, snorkel down. The control systems and the instrumentation on the Z model are almost identical to the X model. There's only a few key differences, and I'm going to go over those now. First and foremost, the retractable snorkel is not as tall as on the X model. It doesn't have the option of a snorkel extension. So when you are diving underwater, you've got to be that much more conscious of how deep you are, because it's more prone to taking water down the snorkel. So you don't want to do the crazy deep dives that we do in the X model. You want to try and trim out about 3 feet deep. Again, snorkel's going to be in the up position most of the time, and it's controlled by these buttons on the right hand control stick. You do have to have the ignition out before the snorkel will engage up or down. You have 2 lights on the left hand side of your dashboard that we don't have on the X model. The blue light is basically going to tell you that it's safe to dive. That means the snorkel is in the full up position. It's also the light at the top. Blue for water, so you think if you're underwater, blue light, snorkel up. The amber light means that the snorkel is fully retracted into its snorkel pocket. Linear actuator that raises and retracts the snorkel has a clutch on it, so it should stop before it hits the top and the bottom of its travel, but don't hold on the button. Listen for the noise and look at the lights. When you're into the full up position, stop actuating the bottom. When you're in the full down position, stop actuating the button. Most of the time you're going to drive just normally, snorkel up, cruise around. When you go to do the dive, go through a mental checklist. Is the latch closed? Are both of your latches fully locked in their position? Pneumatics over 15 psi. It's very important that before you do a roll, those latches are 100% secure and pneumatics are inflated. Barrel rolls are not a particularly difficult trick to learn. It's basically just a roll. You're going to push one hand all the way forward, one hand all the way back. I find the ideal speed for doing a barrel roll is about 20 miles an hour. You can do them a little bit faster, you can do them a little bit slower. What it really comes down to is the quicker you can change and spin the boat, the quicker it'll be over and the less likely it is to take water into the intake on the snorkel. Again, make sure the snorkel is fully retracted and try not to get the boat hanging upside down. The goal is to roll all the way over and get it level as quickly as possible. When you get it right, a barrel roll should take 1 second, second and a half. If you make a mistake, you're going to hang upside down, get off the throttle, let the boat naturally right itself. So now I'm going to show you what an ideal barrel roll looks like, about the speed you want to approach it at, how quickly you spin it. Try to keep your feet neutral. You don't want to turn at the same time as you roll, or you can kind of high side it. The idea is to keep in a level axis, in a straight line, roll as quickly as possible. Make sure you have your seatbelts on. Number one most important thing. You don't want to try a barrel roll without those. Make sure your seatbelts in the back seat are secured and not going to hit you in the head. Adjust them, make them pretty tight. And again, we went over the seatbelt use. Make sure you know how to get out of them. Make sure you teach any passenger how to get out of your seatbelts in an emergency situation. These are the things that you have to go over and over every time you're about to try a barrel roll. Don't take it for granted. It is a potentially risky maneuver, and it's something that you want to really go through your checklist and get familiar with everything that's important to do. The checklist on a Z model before you try and do a barrel roll: close the canopy, latch both sides, make sure they're hooked, pull out the ignition, inflate the pneumatic seals to 15 psi, make sure your snorkel is in the down position and the amber light is on. If for any reason you can't hold pressure or your latches aren't securing right, do not attempt a barrel roll. Always check around you to make sure there's no boats in your way. Get up to about 20 miles per hour and then crank the wings in opposite directions. soon as you've finished doing a barrel roll, raise your snorkel to the upright position until the blue light comes on. Then and only then can you go into dives. When you're driving the Z model with the canopy open, it is a little bit different than the X model. The canopy doesn't have a stop at the top, so it can actually jump and potentially jump off the rail and even hit you in the head. What I prefer to do when I'm driving the Z model on the surface, once you get comfortable with your roll control, is bring the snorkel down to about half position. That will lower the snorkel, put the weight a little bit further back, trim it out a little bit. Loading up the sea breacher is a pretty important job, and when you're not familiar with the reverse and controls, it's good to have plenty of help. When you get good, you just drive it right up on. It's real simple. The most important thing is making sure that the trailer is at the right depth. Different ramps have different angles, so you'll get used to it, but ideally you want about half of the bunks out of the water, half of the bunks in the water. You can come in forward, but you can slow your speed by slowly bringing it back to neutral and reverse and come in at about 3 miles an hour, line it up, drive it on, and then winch it the rest of the way. Joe's bringing in the X model now, and we'll show you. He's going to have someone ready to hook it up, put the tow bar on, get it just right. Takes practice. If you're not comfortable with it though, get people, bring it in with a rope. You don't want to damage the paint on the way in. Too far. Back. Forward. A little bit. Just a wee bit, man. Alright, you're good. Lock the bar on and then put the safety winch as well. Once you bring it out of the water, you don't want to run the engine for too long or you can burn up the impeller. Run the engine a couple of times just to clear the water out of the exhaust and then kill the engine. Right, Joey? Okay, so now we've got the boat back at the shop. There's a few things that you want to do when you get it here. Start out by letting everything dry out. We generally store the boat open so it doesn't build up any mildew. We'll pull the engine hatch off, pull out all the 4 screws, make sure you don't lose them. You can put them in the seat or just somewhere secure. You'll pull the engine hatch off. Carefully, you don't want to chip the paint. Put it down on something soft. And then we're going to want to get underneath the boat, pull all the drain plugs out. As we mentioned, there's 2 on the transom and 2 underneath. Again, it's a good idea to put these drain plugs in a plastic bag on the front driver's seat. That way there's no way you can forget it when you go back out the next time. Again, there's 2 on the transom. We'll open these up. Water very rarely comes out of those because most of the water collects in the keel. And this is how you'll store the boat. Even if you've got a cover, it's a good idea to leave it completely open and let everything evaporate. Keep it dry. If you're in the salt water, you're going to have to flush the entire boat and clean it thoroughly. All the aluminum parts, all the bushings, lubricate it. The flush tube is actually up here on the left-hand side. You're going to use the wand attachment that comes in your kit, and then your hose will attach to it. You will start the engine, run the hose, run it for maybe 5 minutes, turn the hose off, then shut the engine down. If you're running in salt water, you can use Salt Away, which is basically a soap that will clean out your entire internal cooling system. And then you're going to clean the boat thoroughly. Almost everything in the boat is waterproof, except for some of the electronic features like an iPod. So when you rinse the boat, the only things that you need to be careful of Here's the intake for the engine. You don't want to shoot water right into there, but the rest of it you can pretty much soak, wash down really well. In the cockpit, same thing, everything's pretty much waterproof. The only thing you'll remove is the iPod if it's mounted up the front, and you want to try and avoid getting water directly underneath the dashboard where all the electronics are. Aside from that, rinse everything out, and then you'll go through your comprehensive lubrication kit, make sure all your cables don't seize up. Salt water is very corrosive for any watercraft, any boat. It's really, really important, especially with a sea breacher, to flush things out. Again, intercooler, something you want to check when it comes out of the water. You can even pull the drain plug out of it, drain any water out of it, and even pull one of the tubes off to make sure that it hasn't got any water in that may have come down the snorkel. If you're storing the sea breacher in a tight, confined garage, make sure you remove the snorkel extension. We've had a couple of customers that have wiped out their snorkel extension as they back it into a garage. So if you've got a bay door, make sure it's high enough, or if in doubt, remove the snorkel extension on an X model or a Y model. Check the oil, check your coolant levels, all those sort of things every time you go out. Occasionally it's possible to get water into the engine. With the X model it's very unlikely because we've got a large snorkel, but in the Z model if you do too many rolls it's possible that you may get water inside your intake. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to damage your engine, but you want to get 100% of that water out. There's actually a collection part of the intake manifold that will store about a quart of water. When you get back from doing a pretty extreme routine, you can actually drain that. If you go to the back of the intake manifold, you can find this yellow tube. This is a drain tube, and it actually allows you to drain any water that may have ended up inside the engine intake out. So you'll pull this bolt out and then drain it out. You can even suck it. It's also good to find out if any moisture did end up in there. It'll be an indicator of whether your intercooler might be leaking. Then again, when you're done, remember to put this bolt back in securely and secure it backside in the engine bay. It's just a worst case scenario, but something you want to check periodically. Again, check the oil, make sure that you haven't got any signs of water in the oil. Change it according to the service schedule. About every 20 hours tends to be a good thing to do, except on the original break-in, which is 10 hours. And if the boat does ever seem like it's spluttering because you've taken water into the intake, drain the intake, drain the intercooler, and it's a good idea to switch spark plugs. That way they're not fouled out and you'll be ready to go the next time. The Sea Breacher also has a primary battery shut-off switch like this, and it's accessible from inside the cockpit. You can't see it, but it's actually behind this part of the rear seat on the right-hand side of the boat. So you can actually turn the complete battery system off and on, just like this. So in the unlikely event that there was ever an electrical fire and you wanted to shut down 100% of the electrical system, both the engine and the accessory related, you can just shut it off from inside the cockpit. Also, when we ship the boats internationally, we'll typically either disconnect the battery 100% or shut it off. Also, it's a good secret security device to make sure that people aren't fiddling with your boat when you don't want them to. You can always shut the entire battery system off. If you're going to be storing the Sea Breacher for a long time, it's probably a better idea to disconnect your battery or even remove it completely, maybe put it on a trickle charge. So once you've done all your thorough cleanup, and let it air dry maybe for a day or so, you can put the cover on it if you ended up buying the optional cover for storage. Keep the dust off it, keep prying eyes away from it. But generally this is the same as any watercraft, personal watercraft, the same sort of maintenance supplies, but we've given you a basic understanding of how to operate and use your Sea Breacher. If you have any questions whatsoever, make sure you contact either your authorized dealer or us directly at Innerspace. We want you to enjoy these watercraft. They're great fun, but we want you to make sure that you're, number one, safe, and number two, you don't damage your watercraft. So watch this video as many times as you feel you need to in order to get a full understanding of this before you go out on the water. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, give us a call.